NaturaEco Corp is a new 3D printed construction company started this year out of Serbia. We featured them before on my Instagram and TikTok pages, but this is the first time I've had enough footage to make a full YouTube video about them. We're going to go over their technology and their recent completion of the Proto-Dom structure. Like many other companies we featured, NaturaEco Corp aims to benefit from the versatility and design possibilities 3D printed construction combined with parametric architecture have to offer. What makes them unique is the eco part. They're focused on providing a sustainable construction future, and so they are trying to reduce the amount of cement that these 3D printed concrete mixes require, and also search for more sustainable aggregate solutions. You can see their printer has a round extruder, which means it doesn't require a U-axis to rotate at the extruder head. Near the end where the material is extruded, there's a bend in the extruder head. I've actually seen something similar on the Icon 3D printer, but this one is much smaller in scale. They also have larger units, but this one is a smaller gantry system on a track. Here's some of their earlier testing footage. You can see they're getting a little bit of pattern here. This could be accidental if the mixer is just pumping at an irregular pace, or it could be an intentional addition to the style of the structure to give it that texture that you see. Since it's in a regular repeating interval, it almost looks intentional. In this print, it's much less exaggerated, but you still see a slight pattern forming from the pump intervals. Notice how this extruder head is a different shape from the last one. Maybe they realized that adding that curve into the extruder reduces the interval pumping in the extruder. Like with any new technology, it's all about trial and error to figure out what you want to build. Sometimes your mistakes actually lead you through creative paths that make you create things you never could have thought of before. Here we see almost a certainly intentional pattern with this material being pumped out at an interval that leaves you with this textured, bubbly look. If you were commissioning a 3D printed structure, how would you want the texture to be finished? Would you want it to look like smooth lines? Would you want it to be flattened out so that it looks just like a regular plaster wall? Or would you opt for one of these creative interval style textured walls instead? You'll see in the Proto-Dom house that they used a mixture of different wall elements, some being smooth printed walls and others containing textures or larger patterns. Without hearing this from them directly, it's clear in the Proto-Dom house that it was meant to demonstrate the many capabilities of 3D printed construction. They should be very proud of their work. Most companies' first house is just a simple box or outline, but NaturaEco Corp really stepped it up by providing something with a nice finish quality and really putting a lot of thought and effort into the interior design choices. Just wait until you see. Some of these wall segments are going to be portions of the Proto-Dom house. It's very interesting to see a gantry style printer that's kind of smaller in stature being used to build a home. It's kind of like the way robotic arms are used to build homes in elements rather than the entire thing at once. This can make it much more convenient to use the printer because an enormous system that's the entire size of the house can take a very long time to set up and take down, almost being a construction project in and of itself. Although granted, the more times you set it up and take it down, the easier it gets. Having a smaller system that prints out different elements which are then combined later on in the process makes it possible to build larger structures with smaller printers. This definitely reduces the setup and takedown time, however it does add an assembly step. On this channel, it's really all about automation. So the question is, when you compare a system like this to a larger system, which requires more man-hours to build a similar structure? I'm almost positive that different structures will have different answers. And so the type of project you choose to build completely determines which printer could be right for you. Now, without any further ado, let's see the big results from this tiny printer. Here are the renderings of their goal, what they wanted the house to look like. Oftentimes, the real product can fall short of the rendering, but this is one of the cases where the actual building lives up to the standard that's set by these renderings, or at least in my opinion. What do you think? Here are some of the building elements standing alone, and then this is assembly. I think they've painted the concrete white. This house features electrical outlets and utilities, So they really put a lot of thought into how a real construction project with this kind of technology would go, even though this is just a test unit in a warehouse. Looking closely at some of these upcoming images, you'll see the intentional patterns and textures that they've included in the printed walls. These are really just built for aesthetic purposes and are something that individuals could choose to or not to include in their homes. It's really a demonstration of the things you can easily do with 3D printed concrete that would be very challenging otherwise. Having these kind of complicated patterns by hand would require immense skilled labor. Like other nice looking homes we've seen, this combines wood and concrete to give you a look that's not overwhelmingly one material, but a tasteful combination of multiple. Here's a look at the interior structure of the walls. They tie together the inner and outer portions with rebar. It's also quite likely that they're using some form of reinforced columns to support the roof structure. Most 3D printed buildings are structurally dependent on these reinforced columns so that they don't have to do engineering testing on the structural integrity of the printed concrete walls. Here's yet another version of the extruder head. It's good to see that NaturaEco Corp is testing out so many different things and quick to change it out for something new. Even a completely untrained eye can see how much nicer this print quality is than the print that we saw in the first minute of the video when the material was kind of spitting out unevenly. At the moment, the only product listed on their website is the DLL1, an innovative multifunctional printer with wide versatility. They're attempting to streamline the construction process by providing hardware, software, and material for their clients. They're also working on a Goliath printer, which will be much larger. A size of a printer might seem like a small difference, however, it really changes the needs for the entire system, including the material. When you're doing a small print like you see here, the material needs to cure very quickly so that it's strong enough to support the next layer. But it needs to cure so fast that occasionally this can lead to excess clogging in the mixer pump system or the hose. By having a larger printer, you're able to do larger prints that have a longer layer time, which means that you have a little bit more leeway in how long the material takes to become buildable. It's awesome how new this technology is, that we're able to see the progression of NaturaEco Corp's work from the beginning of this video to this Proto-Dom house now. I mean, look how much nicer the lines are in the Proto house than the lines were at the beginning of the video. You can scroll back and easily see for yourself they've made drastic improvements, and I would imagine they'll continue improving. This Proto-Dom house was only unveiled a couple weeks ago, so now that they got big media attention in Serbia, it's likely that they're getting the attention of lots of new investors and future customers that they can work with. Additional strength and effort from the community will accelerate NaturaEco Corp's pace even more. It's going to be fascinating what they're able to produce in the years to come. It's also notable that they chose to build this as a tiny home. Some companies have began focusing on larger, more luxury products, but this project clearly defines NaturaEco Corp as a company seeking to provide smaller, affordable housing. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, maybe check out the virtual village demo in the link below, or sign up with the code EARLYBIRD for 15% off until we reach 50 members. You can also contact NaturaEco Corp via their website, link also in the description below.